Welcome to Choosing Adoption. I'm Donna Pope, and this podcast supports expectant parents considering adoption and birth parents after placement. Through real stories and guidance shared with clarity, faith, and compassion, we will connect you with others who offer their insights and experiences that will empower you and provide you support. Welcome to Choosing Adoption. This podcast is for members of the adoption community, particularly for birth families, particularly birth mothers, who are faced with the decision of whether or not they're going to choose abortion, they're going to choose giving life and parenting their child, or they're going to choose adoption. And we are so fortunate, and I am so excited to have with us Monica. And Monica is my birth mother. She is the woman who made me a mom. She is the woman who taught me what being a birth mother was all about. Well, of course, I'll never fully know, but she taught me what being a mom is all about. She is the mother of my 26-year-old son, and she and I have had a wonderful relationship over the years, with its ups and downs, just because that's how life is. So, Monica, say hello to our audience.
Hello to the audience, and then also hello to you, Donna, and thank you for having me. And thank you for your bravery. This is personal stuff, and we're happy to share it with anyone who might benefit from what we have to share.
And I also want to introduce Nathan, and Nathan is my co-host on many of these podcasts, and I'm very fortunate to have him here as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Monica, wow, what an amazing thing to be able to say about someone, the woman who made me a mom, right? What a powerful statement.
You're a jerker.
Yeah,
it really is. It really is. The year was 1999. And if you ever, not that I should tell everybody what my password is, but if you ever wonder what my password is, it's 1999, because that was the year my life changed. And it was because of this woman right here. And so I want to introduce a little bit about Monica. So Monica, we're so excited to have you. Can you tell us just a little bit about your background, about what's gone on with your career since then and with your son, and where you're at right now?
So, I had Josh in 1999, and it took me 2 more years before I could clean my life up. I went to jail, I went to rehab, and I got clean in 2001. February 5th, 2001. So, I did a lot of the internal work. I got a full ride scholarship from the Ford Family Foundation to go to college. I had a GED.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I had a GED, but I didn't have a high school diploma. And so I worked, and I got my bachelor's degree, and then I got my master's degree, and I thought, well, there's really people that pay you pay you for your way to go to school? Scholarships, wow. And so I realized there were people out there that were looking for people like me to help me learn and grow. Yeah, so I got my master's degree in healthcare administration. I've gone to China to study the single-payer healthcare system there. I went to Taiwan. I have friends from all over the world. And so I live in Grants Pass, and I work as a program manager in a residential home for people who are struggling with life.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to add a few more things. Monica is a twin, and tell us a little bit about your relationship with your twin.
My twin sister and I were close growing up. She actually raised my son Aaron. I don't think we brought this up yet, but I have a son named Aaron who is 30. So he's just a few years older than Josh. So Michelle raised Aaron for a couple months when I was making bad choices. And she lives here in Grants Pass in the same town, and we are, I visit her frequently. She's got some health problems, but we talk frequently.
Well, thank you. And your twin sister, I wanted to bring her up because she was so important in your life. And she was so important when you were going through that really tough time of your life in helping you out with your son. Tell a little bit about Aaron. Aaron, who's 13 and 4 years older than my son, Josh. Tell a little bit about him.
He's great. Aaron, he's 30 years old. He is a manager at a phone store. He would not go to college. I begged and begged and begged. I can't get him to go. But I visit him frequently. He has a little scooter that he rides around on the beach. He lives in Brookings. He likes to play basketball. He likes to play video games. He's polite and respectful and thoughtful. Aaron and I get along extremely well. We talk every day on the phone.
No, he's a wonderful young man. So there's much to the story that we won't get to right now. We'll start instead, I think, if it's okay with you, Monica, by you just kind of taking us back 27 years ago. So 27 years ago, tell us a little bit about the situation you were in at that time and what made you choose adoption.
So I was living in I was living a wayward life, and I don't want to go into details about, the things that I was doing, but let's just say, it was a very wayward life, and I had no home, I had no car, I had no job, I had no way, I was unemployable, I had a drug addiction, I was estranged from my family, and I had a 4-year-old who I couldn't take care of, so I thought, here I was pregnant, and I thought, how am I going to take care of 2 if I can't even take care of 1? And so I started calling adoption agencies, and most of them, they were just I felt put off by them. But you were like, we'll buy you a plane ticket, we'll fly you out here. And I knew I had to get out of where I was at. This was something I needed to go take care of. I needed to face this. And so, so basically it was, if you can't take care of 1, how are you going to take care of 2? So, and then Heart to Heart was kind enough to send me a plane ticket.
Yeah. And so to fill in the story there, I met Monica, and she actually came and stayed in my condo with me for a while. And I won't ask you how that was, but I loved having you there at the time. Do you want to make any comments on that?
Absolutely. I was thrilled to be at Heart to Heart. I could just I could finally exhale. My life was really chaotic, and lots of problems, just constant problems. And I got there and I could exhale, and the people were nice to me, and I had a nice clean room to sleep in, and nice good food to eat, and most of all, people were nice to me. People were kind to me. I had a friend who I hadn't seen in many years. He found out that I was pregnant and that I was placing my child for adoption, and he actually, remember Kevin? He drove up to out to Utah to be there for me. So and the agency was supportive of that too. So it was no wrong turns, really.
The one of the things that I remember so well is I would buy food and put it in the fridge, and you would eat it all. You were starving to death. You were starving to death. And I thought about that. Here you're trying to grow this little boy inside of you, and you were starving. And helping people just get basic nutrition is such an important part of the adoption journey. We don't think about it because we think everybody has plenty of food. but they don't always have plenty of food.
Isn't that sad?
And so you came to Utah, you stayed there, and then one of the things I want to ask about is the birth father. So Josh's birth father, talk just a little bit about him.
He's a gangster. I mean, there's no pretty way to say it. He's a gangster. I mean, a full-on gangster, not a good man. And I think he has 14 kids, 14 or 17, somewhere up there, none of whom need parents. Maybe one or two, I don't know. I stayed in touch with him over the years because I thought, my gosh, someday Josh might want to know who he is, and least I could do is, be able to introduce them one day. And then I thought, you're not meeting him. You don't get to meet him. And so, and so I don't speak to, I think he's in prison right now. And, that's one of the things when I gave Josh up for adoption, I thought one of my prayers was, please God, don't let this be in vain. Don't let this be in vain. And it hasn't been in vain.
Okay. Help us understand a little bit better what that means. What would have been in vain versus what would have not been in vain?
Don't let me just give my kid to somebody and continue to use drugs and completely ruin my life. And I knew one day I'd want him to meet me, and I don't want him to meet me, and I'm all screwed up on drugs. So, in vain would have been, for no reason. For no reason, so I could continue to do the same stuff I was doing. No, not in vain.
Right. And that opportunity to use this period of time of great sacrifice and great struggle to change your life was what was important to you.
The seeds were planted when I was there. Now, I had to go on for about 2 more years after he was born before I could get help. But God was instrumental in all that. I didn't just go to jail. I went to rehab, and I found out who I am in Christ. And when you know who you are, and you know how much He loves you, then, you learn to trust. And then also just the little things that happened over the years that we'll get to, showed me that I did not place my child in vain, and that also he had a great life. So I was fine.
That I think, as I've worked with women for years and years, the way you encapsulated that was really good. They often can't say it that way, but there's this feeling of, I'm going through all this. I want some good to come out of it. And there'll be that feeling of, oh, I hope some good comes out of it. And I appreciated that you pointed out that it's not just the good for the child, which absolutely you want the good for the child, but you also want good to come out of it for you as well. And so you had the child, you came, you got good medical care. I remember who was there. How was that? The medical care, the support you got in that way?
So that was great too. They signed me up for healthcare services in Utah. And it was, there was a case manager that went with me and helped me fill out all the forms and answer all the questions and provide transportation and stop to get me something to eat. Great people. Went in, didn't have to wait long for the appointments. I don't remember. I remember getting really good care. And then when Josh was born, you were there holding my hand, and your other friend was there. So the medical care was phenomenal. I didn't have insurance in Utah or any money or even know what those things really are. And I got there, and then they had a case manager, and I remember her too. Her name was Carrie, and she'd take me to my appointments, and sometimes you'd take me, and they would measure my belly, and they gave me prenatal meds, and they also took care of some other underlying health issues that I had, like dental. I think I had some dental care that done when I was there. Anyways, I didn't have to wait long or I was treated with respect and empathy and care. And then also when Josh was born, you were there holding my hand. So that was great too.
So let's talk about this. One of the most important things for women considering adoption is the adoptive family. Now, this is very personal to me, but one of the most important decisions they have to make after choosing adoption is choosing the adoptive family. Tell us about what went into that for you.
This is the funniest story, I swear. You get there and they give you this binder. It's a 3-ring binder and it has pictures of people and their kids and their dogs. And it looks like everybody could be on the cover of Abercrombie and Finch or Good Housekeeping or something. And they're always on the porch with the dog and the little girl. And sometimes you look at those things and you go, these are the things that I want for my child, but these people are nothing like me. So I think it's hard it's hard when they look so fake, I guess. I called the first family that I went through and I read the stuff and I thought, well, they might seem like nice people, so, which is tough. It's a bio. This is not, it's tough stuff. So I called the first family and I felt really uncomfortable. So I said to the lady, I feel really uncomfortable. Do you? And she said, yes, I do. And I said, well, and then we both kind of laughed and I said, well, tell me your name. And then we just kind of talked and broke the ice a little bit because, what do? You call up, hey, I'm having a baby and I heard you're in the market, it's just, so now you can say something like, working with heart-to-heart adoptions. I am pregnant and I see that you are interested in adoption and I saw your profile and I'd really like to talk with you a little more to get to know you. Something like that might be helpful. It's an awkward conversation. It is. Write down some things if you can, things that you might like to know about the family before you call them. So I was too lost to even do that. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I just knew it couldn't be me because I had nothing. I had nothing to offer. But so the first family I called and the lady was very nice, but the husband had just gotten laid off after like 25 years on the job. So that wasn't going to work. Then I called the next family and they had a daughter who was 8 years old who was in the hospital with terminal illness. So that wasn't going to work. And then I remember I said to Donna, I said to you, hey, what if no one wants him? And you laughed at me. You said, someone will want this child. And then about a couple days later, you said to me, what do you think if I adopt him? And I said, well, gosh, you wouldn't take him just because nobody else wants him, would you? And you said, absolutely not. You're a great young lady, and I want to parent your child. And so there was a lot of crying, and I said, well, that just sounds great. So, and it was fine. And, but I was fortunate. I had an opportunity to get to know you, besides a picture and a phone call or a couple of meetings. So I was very fortunate.
No, and I was as well. And that opportunity for birth moms to get to know the adoptive family and feel confident in their decision and feel confident that this child's going to a great home, a home that I would choose for them, and I get to choose it from them. That's a real important part of the whole process. So how was it once you actually had the baby and then, once the baby was out of the hospital and you signed all the papers and stuff to place him for adoption?
So the relinquishing party, they have a really neat party called a relinquishment. And that's where we celebrate the new mom. She has a new child, and she's going to be a mama now. And we celebrate for her, and we also celebrate for the woman who placed the child. And it's kind of it's a gratitude to her and a good for you to the other one. So that's a really neat thing that they do. I thought it was great. So,
and Kevin was there to support you through
yes,
that.
and Kevin was there. Now remember, my family, I was estranged from my whole family. And so I had, but I wasn't alone. The Heart to Heart adoption family was there for me when my family couldn't be. So, and then also Kevin, the only reason Kevin knew what I was doing is because my mom told him, and she heard through the grapevine. So he was kind of, I don't know if he was being a spy, but I think he wanted to support me.
I remember seeing Josh for the first time and how much I loved him. Tell me how you felt.
Scared. You don't want to love a child that you're not going to take home with you. So I did get 2 days with Josh. Kevin and Josh and I spent like a day or two together. I can't remember exactly how long. It was it was a short amount of time. And I remember Kevin said we couldn't sleep because he might cry. So I think that period should be short. I don't think that should be any longer than what it was.
So you're holding this little boy who I know I loved and you loved as well. You had to make that decision again. Am I going to choose adoption? Am I going to place this little boy for adoption? Tell us how that went.
So it's scary because you don't really know you don't know the person that well. I mean, we only spent 3 months together. And so you don't know the person all that well, and you have to trust God. You have to trust the process. You have to let go. And then also, I had things to do. And I also was afraid of the dad too. I didn't want the dad to use Josh as an excuse to come around and try to be in my life. And so I knew it was kind of for protection for him too. Remember, he's a gangster. And so I wanted Josh to be protected from him. And I knew you could do it, but I didn't know that I could.
So these things to do, you needed to get on with your life. Tell us about what happened there. How did you get on with your life?
So my son, so I went to jail and I went to rehab. And when I got out of rehab, my son was in Oregon. My older sister was taking care of him, raising him. And so when I got out of jail in 2001, my mom got me a little truck and a little Dodge Ram. And I drove that sucker up here to Oregon with a box full of clothes. And I arrived at my sister's house. I got a job. And it was the neatest thing because my son came running out from Cindy's house and he goes, "Mom!" And he was 6 years old. It had been 4 years since I had parented him. So he came out and said, "Mom!" And it was just as natural as it could have been. I can't think of any other thing that could have made it better. They told him I was sick. He thought I was sick. So now all of a sudden Mom's better. So
I think this relationship that you two have is really sweet. Monica, can you tell us about this relationship that you have with Donna, the adoptive mother?
Yeah. So, Donna, you asked me what was it like after I placed him and so on. I remember it took me 2 years to get clean after I placed him for adoption. And I called her and asked her to buy me a car. And she said no. But after I got clean, do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
No. After I got clean, and I went to church a lot. And I took Aaron to church because I believe as a parent, your highest calling to your children is to teach them about God. That's really the best you can do as a parent. Teach your children who God is. I was learning who I was, and I trusted God, and I thought she was a neat lady, and I trusted her, and I called her. I didn't want to talk to Josh a whole lot. I didn't want to confuse him. He knew that his mom owned an adoption agency, and she can probably speak to that a little better than I can, but we talked about every 6 months, I'd say every 6 to 8 months. And I would just say, how's he doing? How's he doing in school? Does he have friends? Is he loved? Is he happy? Is he healthy? All the things that you'd want to know about your kids or your nieces or nephews or anyone really. Is he happy? Is he healthy? Does he have a place in your family? What is he interested in? And she would tell me, and sometimes she would put him on the phone and he would say hi, but it was always monitored. I never just called him, or it was always through her.
And tell me about your relationship with Josh.
So Josh is a neat young man. He is so let's see, came to visit me a couple of years ago for the first time. I think, well, the first time I met Josh, let me just back up. It was during Obama's second inauguration. So was that 2012? We're bad if we don't know that.
Yeah, that would have been 2012.
Yeah, it was 2012. So that puts Josh at about 13 and Aaron at about 15.
No, he's
4 years older. Okay, right. We had gone to the inauguration, and then we had a layover in Utah, a 7-hour layover in Utah. So I called Donna, and she agreed to come pick Aaron and I up and bring her family, and we all went to eat. And that was a real turning point for me because I knew that Josh had a family. I knew that he had a home. I witnessed it. He was there with his brothers. They were all acting up a little bit, and Donna was trying to keep them all calm. And he had a spot in that family. There was a dynamic between them that you could tell they were a family, and he had a spot. So that was, I think, when I stopped feeling guilty. I just quit feeling guilty. Now I get sad once in a while because it's hard stuff. And I think about how awesome God is and how grateful I am to Donna for raising a child that I couldn't raise, and doing a good job at it too, and giving him all the things that I couldn't give him, and things that I didn't even know I wanted him to have. So that's when I quit feeling guilty.
Go ahead and say what you were going to say. I'm sure that's more important than what I was going to say.
So that's the first time I met Josh. And then some years went by, and we've met a couple times since then. But yeah, he came to my house for Christmas, and it was really cool. It was really nice. I had him and Aaron and my niece Nicole, and so he's got cousins and aunts and uncles, and so yeah. And I talked to him on the phone on occasion, some texting.
I have one other question for you. You told the story at the very beginning about how you realized you were pregnant and you knew you weren't in a spot to take care of another child. And then, at least in your story, you went immediately to calling adoption agencies. Was there something in between when you realized you couldn't keep this child and when you started contacting adoption agencies, or did you immediately start contacting the agencies?
And the closer I got to my due date was the more I began to call agencies.
How far along were you in the process when you started making those phone calls?
Probably 6 months.
Yeah. So Monica, why did you choose adoption instead of abortion?
So Nathan, the truth is that I was really busy with my drug use, and so there came a point where, you're only pregnant for 9 months. And so there came a point where abortion was no longer a choice for me. So I did not have a choice. It was birth. Now it became whether or not I'm going to keep him or place him for adoption. And that was kind of a no-brainer for me because, like I said, I had one I couldn't take care of. How was I going to take care of two? And so adoption was the route I went.
Are you glad?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I mean, it's been good. The whole thing's good. I mean, we cry and some of these are tough topics and stuff, but Josh is a really neat kid and his mom's a neat lady and she did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And it's just a beautiful story, I think.
Yeah. And his birth mother's a pretty neat lady too.
Oh, well, thank you.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, I know this is very personal for me, but am I glad?
Oh, yeah. Of course you are.
I am so glad. I love my son. I love our son. And is he a challenging kid? Oh, yeah. Is he a challenging adult? Oh, yes, he is. But I'm so glad to be his mom. And I'm so glad for his life. I'm so glad for his life. So, I'm glad.
I am too. I'm glad too. Yeah, I'm glad because I think honestly, I don't know if I would have got clean if I had had an abortion. I mean, there was no impetus. Is that the word?
Yeah, that's the perfect word.
For me to try to change my life.
And going back to that idea of let's not have this be in vain. Let's not go through all of this and not have good come out of it. That was so important to you.
And then he became the inspiration, right? You wanted to be better. You wanted to clean your life up so that when you met him again, you were proud of where you were in your life.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I wanted to be proud about where I am in my life, but I didn't want him to have his mom tell him, your mom, she's just, no one knows what happened to her. She's just out there. She's in prison. Imagine that. Imagine if he had to hear that I'm in prison, or something like that. Nobody wants their kids to think poorly of them.
So how did you make the change? You mentioned that you went back to jail. You went to a rehab place. I know that you left our place and then went to rehab, and then you went to jail. Tell me what made the change that you could then go pick up Aaron and be his mom again. What changed?
I don't know. When I went to jail, I was it was called the RSAT recovery program. So you can go to jail and then you can apply to go to the drug rehab while you're in jail. So you transfer out of the jail into the rehab and you're surrounded with its recovery 24/7. And you're surrounded with other girls who want to change their lives too. So when I was in jail, there was a girl named Yvette, and she knows God. And she and I are both still friends, and she's clean too. She is, since 2001, she's an alcohol and drug counselor in Palm Springs. Married, owns a house, neat girl. But anyway, she and I would push our food trays over and fast and ask God to heal us. And so the ladies from the church used to come every weekend and teach us little songs, that I still trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not unto thine own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him. So little things that just helped me get through the weeks and the days and the months. And then when I got out of jail, I did not hang around. I got straight out of California and came straight to Utah. And then when I got to to Oregon. And then when I got to Oregon, the church people had already found me a church to go to. and they gave me a Bible. So when I got out of jail, I had this really nice Bible. I still use it. It's my Bible. Um, and, and so it was on my property. So I got out, and then they had an address of where I was supposed to go to church based on where I was moving to. So, and I went to some AA meetings and stuff, but mostly I found healing in Christ. And I went to a really cool church. In fact, I'm going to the same church I used to go to when I first got out of jail now. So just kind of missed it. I like the small little church. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why some make it and some don't.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And you found that help. People find that help in different ways, but it was tough.
Yeah.
And like you said, one of your impetus was, and you used to say to me that you wanted me to be able to tell Josh good stuff about you.
Yeah.
And that was super important to you. And then you were able to get Aaron back and raise him. And then you were able to go back to college and get your master's degree and just keep moving along and make a great life for you and Aaron. Did you ever in that process regret your decision?
You know, I wouldn't say regret. That's not a word I would use. But there were times when I thought, hey, I'm doing pretty good. You know, I wish I could have raised Josh, but by that time he had a mom, you know, he had a mama. And that's why at Christmas I remember calling and saying, I don't send presents. And you said, we don't expect them. But I didn't want to confuse him. He had a life. He had a mom. He had a family. And so, yeah, but there were times certainly where I thought, gosh, you know, things turn out. But then I always follow that thought comes with, there was no guarantees, Monica. There were no guarantees that you were going to get your life together. None. And also I could always call you and say, gosh, you know, I'm feeling like this.
So you talked about the guilt. You indicated that there was not regret as much, but you did say that there was guilt. Tell us a little bit about that.
The guilt comes from being a drug addict. You know, it's the guilt that comes from just not being a person I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, much less let my kids look at me, you know, and what's he going to say, that I just gave him away because I didn't want him? Is he going to think I didn't want him? Is he going to think I was just some loser drug addict? Is he going to think, what's he going to think? But we had lots of conversations about that kind of stuff prior to my leaving Utah. So I think you had a pretty firm understanding of where I was coming from. And that's why it's so important to, you know, trust the birth parents. If you pick them, you know, I mean, trust the process.
I will tell a little story because I got caught off guard. I remember he and he may have been 7 or so, 8. I'm not sure how old he was, but we went in to see a counselor because I wanted him to have someone just besides me to talk to. And I remember going into that counselor, and the counselor invited me to step out so that she could talk directly to Josh. And so I did. And it wasn't 30 seconds till she called me to come back in. And I thought, what did he tell her in 30 seconds that was weighing so heavy on his mind that immediately with me leaving, he told her and asked her. So I walked back in and she said, Josh has a question for you. I go, okay. And she said, why did Monica give me up for adoption and parent her other son? And so I was a little caught off guard, and I wasn't quite sure how to answer it because you and I had talked before, because I didn't want to paint you in a bad light at all. At the same time, I wanted to be honest with him about what the situation you were in at the time. So I told him, I said, at the time she couldn't parent Aaron. Even at that time, she can now, but at that time she couldn't, because she was at just a really rough spot in her life. And that was good enough for him. That was good enough. And I said, and now she's been able to get Aaron back, and hopefully the time will come that you will get to know each of them. And that at the time was good enough for him. As I tell you that story, tell me your thoughts.
So I remember you telling me that, I think you told me about that when it happened. Of course, I'd be, but that's why you're so great, Donna. I remember you sharing with me that before I got my life together, it was really easy for you to justify, adopting Josh. But now that my life is going so well, and I'm going to the inauguration, and I have a consulting agency, and I'm doing all this on top of the world, how you have to be extra, you have to be more, you have to be, and I thought, gosh, so I think birth parents have empathy for the parents. Have empathy for the people who are raising your kids, because they have to field those questions, and they want to do it in a way that's and in line with what you want. So help them. You have to help them.
So let's go now to the issue. Some of the things we've talked about, your life after placement, and you've kind of talked about how you kind of pulled your life back together. One of the biggest challenges you've hinted at is how to negotiate this relationship with the adoptive family. We have a somewhat unique relationship because we got to know each other very well, and I've been in adoption for quite a while, and you are a very intelligent, capable woman. So in some ways, it's been relatively easy for us. But I will tell you one part that was difficult for me, and that was the birth father. I was scared of him. I was scared. I one time was in the car with you and heard you talking to him on the phone. And I heard him talk about how he had knocked off this guy. I was afraid of him. So one of the challenges for me was to honor your need for me to keep Josh safe. And yet at the same time, honor him to some degree. Tell us about how you have managed that relationship. You mentioned a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit more.
So the truth is, I should have walked away and never looked back. And I say that that I maintain a relationship with him. And I won't say relationship, I'll just say contact. I maintain contact with Drew for years because I thought that maybe one day Josh has never, ever really even asked me anything about his dad. He's seen a picture of him, but Josh is so comfortable in his skin and his family. He doesn't need that. So I'm grateful for that. And so now I don't believe I'll be talking to old Drew anymore.
I have given Josh the opportunity, and I have appreciated that you over the years have kept at least the door open enough that if Josh wanted to have that contact, he could. And you've shared pictures of him with me, and I've shared them with Josh. And as you've indicated, he's not been interested. I asked him even lately, do you want to have a relationship? No, not really. And one of my jobs, I have felt responsible both to protect him from this gangster, but also not to hide him. And if Josh wanted answers, that it was important to me that he got the answers, that they be kind, but that they be true. And so he's had those, and I think it's been enough for him. I think it's been enough. So, Monica, we're kind of wrapping up here a little bit. I'd love to hear advice that you would give to other women that are in the situation you were in, where they're trying to choose what to do with this baby that they're now finding themselves pregnant with. What advice would you give them?
I would say don't go for abortion. I would say that you can have a life without having to raise your own child. It's not, if you're not ready, adoption is a beautiful thing. I would say choosing the family is really hard, but try to have some empathy for the family too, because they feel awkward and they're being interviewed for the job of a lifetime. And so I would say be honest about who you are and what you want and what you're concerned about. I think the more honest you are with them, the more likely they are to be comfortable around you. If you say to someone, this is really hard, most people will say, gosh, what can we do to make it easier? Or, gosh, it's hard for me too. They're not going to go, oh, well, they're not going to put you down and make it worse. So just say, this is hard. I would say, trust the process. And I would say also, make a plan for what you want to do after it's over, so that you can get on with your life and not sit around feeling bad about what you've done. And stay in touch with the family, and families that are adopting, stay in touch with them, but trust them to parent the child. So I think if you listen to the podcast and the conversation between Josh and I happened through Donna. So, and that was kind of like, I felt nervous. She used to laugh at me a lot. But he's fine. He was fine, and she had nothing to hide. So, so that's my advice to the people who may be considering adoption.
And what would you say to adopted families? What do you want them to know?
So I think the first thing you need to know is that girls who give their children up for adoption aren't usually in the best place in their lives. And they're feeling bad, and they're feeling low, and they're, so some empathy, I think, is important. I think also a gratitude is important. They're giving you their child. So you need to be grateful. And I think, too, that you should like the parent. You shouldn't just adopt the kid because you want the child. You want a child. You should like you should like the parent. Don and I talked a little bit, and I think it came through in the podcast that Donna liked me. She liked my personality. She wanted my child. And so, at least I've always felt like that. And so, you should know, you should enjoy the birth mother and get to know her and celebrate her gift and be empathetic, but also be clear about boundaries. Because from what I understand, it's not always easy for the birth parents when you have a birth mom who can't let go.
Yeah, and yours is a prime example. Where the birth father is scary. And oftentimes, now that is not always the case. Many birth fathers are amazing and they're wonderful. But once in a while, we get birth fathers where there feels like a threat. Sometimes birth mothers feel like a threat, but sometimes birth fathers do. And being able to navigate those emotions around how do I set appropriate boundaries here, while at the same time expressing and feeling genuine gratitude and a desire to stay connected. Those are challenging things.
Yeah.
Monica, this has been a joy. It's been a joy to interview you. I know this has been hard for you. I love you, and I love the fact that we have been able to have this relationship. I'm so grateful that you've been able to be here and do this with us. I'm grateful for your son, who's my son. We'll put in the show notes some pictures of him. He's quite a guy. He's 6'4". I told him he was only 6'3", 6'4".
I have some really great pictures of Josh and Aaron together that I can send your way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, very much. I guess one thing that people would wonder is how we've been able to maintain this relationship and support the relationship, not only between Monica and I, but also between Joshua, my son, and Monica's son, and Aaron. That sibling relationship has been important to both of them. Well, I believe it's been important to Aaron. I know it's been important to Josh. But how do you support the sibling relationship? How do you support the birth mom and adopted child, adoptee, how those relationships, and those are some of the issues we're going to explore in this podcast. And we may have Monica back on again to help explore some of those. Nathan, do you have any final words?
Just thank you so much, Monica, for the courage that it took to share your story today. I really enjoyed it.
I've been fortunate.
All right. We will see you on our next podcast. Bye. Thank you for being part of Choosing Adoption. I'm Donna Pope. You and your story matter. Visit choosingadoption.com to find resources, community, and encouragement for your unique journey. You are not alone. We are in this with you.